Hi guys, welcome to Writing Today. So for Writing Today, we are going to work on teaching to our audience, and we're really going to focus just on these subtopics. At this point, we don't have an introduction. We're not focusing on all those other little parts like endings or transition words. We're just getting the main subtopics in, and we're making sure we are teaching appropriately for our audience, okay? So your learning target is I can teach my audience about each of my subtopics. So your success criteria is that you are able to identify who their audience is. So who is your audience, basically, is the first one. And then the student can teach their audience about their subtopics. Okay, so in order to meet our learning target, we have to be able to know who our audience is, and our audience is who we are going to be reading and writing, who is going to, be reading your writing, and that includes people like, your classmates, your teacher, and even kids in the school. So my kids, I often include like little pieces of your writing out on our bulletin board in the hallway so that way other kids can see what our online class is doing. So those kids also might be seeing your work, and those kids can be kindergartners all the way up to 5th graders, okay? And also your teacher as well. Why is it important to know who your audience is? Well, because you have to teach according to your audience. If I am teaching a bunch of video gamers about Fortnite, they already have all this background information that I don't need to cover. But if I am teaching a bunch of people who have never played Fortnite, never played video games in general about Fortnite, I would have to teach them differently, okay? So, again, we're trying to teach our audience about our subtopics. So there are some topics that not everybody knows about. Not everybody knows about video games. Just because you do doesn't mean that everybody else does. And I've had this conversation before. I know nothing about video games. So if you are writing about video games, you have to give me all the background knowledge. Meaning, where do I play it? What type of game is it? Is it a fighting game? Is it an arcade game? Like, what is it? How do I win? And then you can get into other things like skins and blah, 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 okay? Sports, same thing. Your audience might not know everything about football if you're writing about football. Most of us know what a quarterback is, or at least know that a quarterback is somebody who plays football, but we don't know a lot of the other positions. We don't know really much about the game, so you are going to have to describe that and tell us about that as well. And then there's other animals besides cats and dogs. Cats and dogs, most people are familiar with. If it's a common pet, you don't have to include a ton of extra information, like for beginners, but you do need to for other animals. And then holidays. Not everybody celebrates the same holidays. Not everybody has the same background knowledge, okay? So if I get a student it's their first year in the U.S., they probably don't know what Halloween is. So if I'm writing about Halloween, I need to give them all that background information. I need to tell them what it is, how we celebrate it, and things like that. Another way to think about this is think about math time. Okay, I have been teaching you guys some multiplication, and I'm going to continue. Imagine if you showed up the first day and I tried to get you to do this. Right? We're not there yet. Oh my goodness, I gotta know how to do this before I can do that, right? So you're gonna do the same thing with your writing. You're gonna start simple, like with this, and then you're gonna work your way up to more complex things. So if I'm writing about hippos, I might describe what they look like. I might talk about what they eat, and then I'll get into some of the more stuff that maybe not everybody knows, like where they live, or that they can be dangerous, okay? So 3 things to keep in mind when you're trying to teach them. You should always be trying to rehearse it out loud. These video lessons, oftentimes, at least I find myself recording them a couple times because I don't like how they turn out the first time. It's not as good. And so the same thing will probably be true for your writing. So you want to practice it a couple times, or just once, even just once, getting out your thoughts. And then you're going to, when you're practicing it, start simple, like I did with that multiplication, like 3 times 1, that's nice and simple. You're going to start simple, and then you'll get more complex, meaning it'll get more in detail. You might be describing things that not everybody knows about. And then lastly, you'll write it out. And when you write it out, you will also start simple and get more complex. You're going to do that for both of these, okay? That is really important, starting simple and then getting more complex. So, I am going to show you how I would do this for my writing. First things first, I'm going to go to my writing. This is about the moon, okay? And I have my table of contents, so those are the things that I want to touch on. What it's made out of, why it's important, and then the phases of the moon, okay? So, I'm going to write a paragraph about what it's made out of. That's my first subtopic, so that's what I'm going to do first, okay? So, I can't just say rock, right? I need to start thinking about all the things that I want to include in my writing. I also need to rehearse it out loud, so I'm going to try that now. Okay. The moon is made out of rock. The surface of the moon has craters made by asteroids and other rock hitting the moon. When rock hits the moon's surface, it causes rays. There are also things called Maria on the moon's surface, which Maria means seas, and these aren't like our typical seas. These are actually just pools of solid magma. Okay, so I think that sounds pretty good to me. I think I tried to start simple, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to write it out, and I'm gonna keep in mind I have to start simple and then get more complex. So I'm going to do that now. The moon is made out. Oh no, you guys keep falling. Hold on, you can't see that, but I can. The moon is made out of rock. Okay, so that's really simple, right? And now I can get more complex. Okay. The moon is made out of rock. The surface of the moon has craters or holes. And I want to add the word or holes so that way people, like the small kids in my building, like if they're in 2nd grade, they might understand more what I'm talking about. They might not know what craters means. Holes. Created by space rocks hitting or running, well actually space rocks running into it. Okay, so I'm still pretty simple right now. I did use the word craters. It's a little more complex. I also used the wrong holes. There we go. And I use the word space rocks instead of asteroids because I'm trying to go simple. If I wanted to include the word like asteroid, I could. But I think space rocks I like a little bit more. Okay. So now I'm still thinking, okay, I'm pretty simple. Like craters. Oh, when the rock hits the moon, it creates rays. When space hit the moon, it creates lines and the craters these lines are called rays. Okay, so now I have that. Oh, and I wanted to talk about Maria. And Maria is probably the most complicated because not very many people know what it is. So the surface also has Maria. Oops. Maria means seas. but these aren't made of water, but they are made out of pools of solid magma. Okay. So I have my first paragraph done. What is it made out of? Okay. So now I need another paragraph. So I'm going to actually hit return a couple times to go down because I want to organize as I go. And that's going to be very important later. So my next thing is it important? Okay. So I'm going to again practice out loud. Okay. The moon is important. It reflects light at night. The moon also creates tides in our oceans, in large bodies of, or in our oceans and bodies of water. Tides are important for travelers. And what else do I want to include? Why is it important? Oh yeah, and the moon, it also helps create a more stable environment for our climate for us, because it helps like stabilize the earth, because the earth's kind of at a tilt. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I think I went from simple to more complex. I might need to think that through some more, but I'm pretty sure like starting out with yes it is important and ending with yes it stops us from tipping over. It's kind of good. Okay, I don't know if it stops us from tipping over, but it makes it more stable for us. Okay, so I'm going to continue my writing. So, okay, yes. No, I'm just going to start off with the moon. The moon is very important. It is important because it reflects light at night. Okay, and then it like creates the tides. And other bodies of water. Tides are important for those traveling by water. And then also, the moon also creates a more stable climate for those of us on Earth. I don't think I'm going to talk about the tilt because I honestly don't know enough about it. But I do know for a fact it does create more of a stable environment because I did read about it the other day. So I think I am good with that, and now I'm going to do my last one. So my last one is about the phases of the moon. So real quick, I'm going to practice this out loud. Okay, there are the crescent, the new moon, the full moon, the gibbous moon, the quarter moon. And that's created by the light reflecting off of the sunlight reflecting off of the moon, and we see each phase depending on where the moon is at in its orbit around us and where the earth is at in its orbit around the sun. Okay, now did I start from simple to complex? Not really. it was kind of all jumbled in there. So when I'm writing, I need to think about the most simple, okay? So I think the simplest thing would be to say, yeah, the moon has different phases. Some of those phases include, because there's waxing and waning, we haven't really learned about that, so I'm just going to include some of the phases. Okay, so new moon, full moon, crescent, gibbous, I have to remember how to spell that, gibbous, and what was the other one that I said? Quarter moon. Okay, so now I've talked about a few of these. So now I need to think about, okay, I've talked a little bit about the phases of the moon. It might be good to explain how we see the phases, okay? We see, okay, how do I want to word that? Depending on where the moon is in its orbit around the Earth / us, and the Earth's orbit around the sun, we see different phases. Okay. I don't like how that's worded. So I think it's going to say we see different phases based on where the moon is in its orbit around Earth or us, and Earth's orbit around the sun. Okay, so you'll notice that I wrote it, didn't like it, went back and changed it a little bit. That's something you guys can always do. Also, if you're writing and you realize you don't know enough about that particular subject, you do know how to research, and now would be a perfect time to do that, okay? But what do I need to do to make sure that I am successful? Well, today I want to be trying to get done at least 1 to 2 of my subtopics. If I get all 3 done, great, but at least 1 or 2. And in order to do that, I'm going to be rehearsing out loud or in my head first, and I'm going to try to start from simple to more complex, and then I'm going to write it out again, simple, and then get more complex, okay? If you have any questions, please ask myself or Mr. Davison.